In the height of summer and in the deep south of the USA, there were 3 siblings. 3F, me, 6F, 8M, and their mom, 28F. Mom had to take my sister to a last-minute doctor's appointment, so she left my brother and me with a trusted neighbor across the street, 28F. Let's call her Barb. I was a sickly kid with separation anxiety, so I started crying after Mom left. When Barb couldn't get me to stop, she locked me in the hall closet with the light off until I calmed down. According to my brother, it was a full episode of Blue's Clues before I was let out. By the time Mom got back, he was watching TV and I was napping like nothing was amiss. She didn't think anything was wrong until my brother told her what had happened after we got home. Now, my mom was a non-confrontational person, but she was spiteful and vindictive AF. She stewed for a day or two before coming to a boil. In the dark of early morning, she snuck over to Barb's, opened the control panel on the side of the house, and turned off the AC. In the sweltering heat of that afternoon, Barb called Mom, not knowing she was pissed, to complain that she had to pay $150 to have someone come out and fix their AC. The repairman didn't tell her it was just switched off. Their lack of integrity made this revenge so much better when my mom decided to do the same thing the next night. It was music to Mom's ears when Barb called again to complain that she had to shell out another $150 to the same repairman who still didn't tell her it was broken. Who still didn't tell her it wasn't broken. When Barb's AC broke for the 3rd day in a row, she decided to call a different repairman who happened to be a little more morally inclined. Barb was incensed, and when she called Mom with this news, who would do such a thing? After Barb woke up and bought a lock for the control panel, Mom couldn't continue that punishment. She didn't feel like Barb had suffered enough though. This horrid woman locked Mom's 3-year-old in the dark she was terrified of and let her cry herself into exhaustion. Mom needed something that would last. Much of the southern USA had a hard time keeping their lawns green and healthy. It takes water and effort to maintain. Barb put a lot of water and a lot of effort into her yard. It was with great relish that Mom went out on the 4th morning and poured bleach all over Barb's beautiful green grass. From the moment the sun warmed Barb's lawn that summer until the grass died that fall, the whole neighborhood saw Mom's handiwork call Barb a bitch from her own front yard. Edit. Since a lot of you are asking, Barb never knew who did it. Mom enjoyed the secret satisfaction of keeping Barb in the dark. Their family only lived in that house for another year or so anyway, and we haven't had contact with them in more than 20 years. Edit 2. This wasn't the first time Barb watched us. She knew that I had issues being left with other people. She also had a daughter my sister's age, so she had experience with the young kids too. Her daughter had no bearing on the story, so I left her out. It was not a reluctant acceptance of Barb's past. She was compensated for her time. Mom and a friend ran a fully licensed daycare out of our house, and each time Barb watched us, she was given a few free days of daycare for her daughter. Lastly, I knew that Mom's choices weren't the proper way to handle the situation, and better actions could have been taken. I just posted this here to show how my mom decided to do so at the time because I figured there were others out there who would be entertained by it. Mom sounds awesome. When I was little, our daycare used to do this though. There was one boy who was constantly in trouble, and honestly he was really mean. Hurt you for no reason, but we were all 6 and under. The workers would put him in a closet and shut the light off for a long time. I don't think any of us kids ever said anything about it. Not until I was older did I realize how messed up that actually was of them to do that to him. He would sit in there and scream forever. No wonder he was an ass being treated that way. Wish I could have been on hand at the time to suggest a better option for your mom. Instead of the bleach, which is destructive and would have been seen as more criminal if caught, get some fertilizer and mix with white chalk and then spell out bitch on Barb's lawn. It'll be bright and visible for all to see. And when Barb inevitably grabs a hose to wash the rude word away, she'll get rid of the chalk but dissolve the fertilizer. So the grass in the marked area grows stronger and greener. So now Barb has a lush green bitch staring at her. No damage has been done, and if she wants to get rid of it, it'll take more than just some seed on bare dead areas. I remember reading on some post on another sub about a mom putting her baby in a car seat and then putting the car seat in the closet to take a nap. Apparently she was sleep deprived because her baby wouldn't stop crying and she was thinking of doing worse, but ultimately decided to put the baby in the closet and passed out. All the comments were saying how she handled the situation as best she could with a screaming baby. Just funny that this comment section is almost the exact opposite. Next story. Let's go back a few years. I was a combat engineer platoon sergeant. We had recently gotten a new company commander who thought his shit didn't stink. My first interaction with him was when I got back from running a M24OB range, where I was told he wanted to speak to all leadership immediately in the conference room. Well, it took 3 hours for him to arrive, and despite 1SG calling many times, he insisted we stay. The entire meeting was him bragging about himself and saying that he was trying to get the company slotted for deployment to the Middle East, as well as how excited he was to go. I spoke up and basically said he's a dumbass, but with more words, which ended the meeting, which got me stern talking to and thinly veiled threats. This captain had been in for 15 years and never once been deployed. That takes effort and a lot of figurative dick sucking. He only wanted to go now because he was up for a major. It turned out the brigade had a mission and asked for volunteers. Captain Dipshit volunteered me to go despite knowing I had gotten married a week earlier. I made it very clear I did not want to go to the higher ups. I was told it was between myself and the captain. A month out, my sister-in-law committed suicide immediately after she miscarried at 33 weeks. Found them both in the basement of their house. Well, Captain Dipshit didn't care. No leave, and I was still to leave about a week after the funeral. Screw him. I walked in to talk to the command sergeant manager and was immediately dropped from the deployment. But the captain was so far up the battalion commander's ass that nothing happened to him. After about 8 months later, Captain Dipshit got his wish. Headquarters platoon and one other was slated to deploy. Of course, because I had the most combat experience and most deployments in the platoon, he naturally decided that's why my platoon should go. Now, in order to deploy, you first have to go to a month-long field exercise where you are graded on performance. This generally applies to the higher levels of leadership. By this time, I was just pissed, so I just got my squad leaders together and improvised a few missions. First, everyone was to follow the CPT's instructions as literally as possible, no matter how dumb, and not to give any advice. This led us to getting absolutely destroyed in training, which was glorious. Secondly, and most importantly, was the psychological aspect. So this dipshit commander would go to bed nightly at 2100 no matter what. In the deserts of California, you can find all sorts of creepy crawlies to slip in a sleeping bag while sprinkling juice on his uniform. They'd also periodically hide some of his gear or render his rifle inoperable. So for days this went on, poor guy slept very little because I ensured his tent was set over top of a beehive. These bees hated any vibration and loved juice. The dumbass never realized why he was constantly getting stung. As we were to be falling under a new brigade, I had to go meet the higher ups, and wouldn't you know it, the colonel we were set to fall under turned out to have been my first company commander who I got along great with. I pulled him aside and called up my squad leaders, where we basically told him Captain Dipshit was gonna get someone killed, pointed out his erratic behavior and the overall poor performance. Needless to say, he was quickly relieved of command, career killer, and sent back to work in an office where he belonged. As for myself and my platoon, I still didn't want to go, but the new company commander was my old platoon leader for my second deployment, plus I couldn't let my guys go without me. Turned out it would be my last deployment as some injuries forced you out of the military, but everyone came back alive. Reminds me of a story my dad told me. While in boot camp, US Navy Seabees, there was a complete asshole DI. Well, a few years later, my dad had received a battlefield commission. They were building something at Dutch Harbor, Alaska. Guess who shows up? Asshole DI, who was still a petty officer. He got in trouble for abusing boots, so my dad proceeded to assign us to washing trucks in negative 30 degrees weather. Speaking of abuse, I once had a PFC report to me every hour on the hour in full kit or body armor for 2 weeks in the field. He had been habitually late despite multiple warnings and counselings over 2 months. He chose that punishment over a Article 15. He called my bluff. I was in bad shape after those 2 weeks, waking up every hour with him. He was never late again, and I never made such an offer again. Had some CSM act that way, he would have my selection completely change my flight routes. This went on for about a month when my SOCOM got in touch with me to find out why all important flights were being cancelled, mostly the Angel flights. Because of my record keeping, it showed that the changes were not made on my shift because CSM almost got banned from any flights in the theater. Next story. Backstory. I dropped out of college after a couple semesters and joined the Navy for 5 years, then returned to college after my enlistment. During my second attempt at college, I took a usability class where we focused on marketing websites and documents more intuitive. In the class, we had a semester-long group project where we were to find a website, draft a long document going all over the issues the site had, and provide solutions with usability testing performed and recorded in the lab, culminating in a presentation to the class with our test group. I was part of a 5-person group. I was thinking, great, that means more people to break up what's needed. Boy, was I wrong. My group consisted of 1 other guy and 3 girls. Our weakest link turned out to be one of the girls. I'm pretty sure her elevator didn't hit the top floor, and she even admitted to this was the only class she was taking to raise enough of a GPA to graduate. At this time, I was doing IT/website work for a family and friends as a side hustle. One of the websites was kind of rough and hard to navigate for being a healthy food-to-go business. I brought this website and customer to the group and pitched that we would have a real website and company that could utilize the changes we suggest. Another teammate presented a website for a hipster restaurant in Austin whose website had 2 topless chicks in a bathtub as one of the sideshow photos. I'm no prude, but this being a college in West Texas, I just thought it probably wasn't the best choice. Maybe I'm an asshole, but I persuaded the group to use my website. Fast forward halfway through the semester, and the group member who suggested the other website wants to go to the professor and kick out the dumb girl. Mean girl tries to tell me, a veteran, that in the real world, we wouldn't have to deal with this incompetence or some crap like that. I literally laughed at her and said, I've been in the real world, and you will always have some idiot you have to drag along on a team to get shit done. She didn't like this, so the other 3 members went to the professor. She called us all in one at a time, and when she got to me, she asked if I wanted to make the dumb girl do her own project since she wasn't pulling her weight. I said no, since that's the shitty way to make someone start over halfway through, so I got to keep the work we started and just gave the dumb girl simple tasks. The project continues, and we get recorded usability tests done and create our presentation. I'm able to get the owners of the business whose website we used to come to our presentation. It went great, and the owners asked me to make the changes ASAP. My old group's presentation was garbage as they went with the hipster restaurant websites. After all the drama, the professor told me I had the best presentation, and she was happy we had actual customers to present to. When she asked how much work the dumb girl did, a flat lied and said she actually helped a bunch. The dumb girl later told me she just barely had a high enough GPA to graduate, lol. I always did my best to just embrace crappy group members who couldn't pull their weight. It's easier to get a better grade that way since teachers usually are happier to see a student who normally doesn't perform well to appear to be excelling rather than seeing a dysfunctional group coming to them with complaints. I feel like this is how people beat the system. If you don't have what it takes, you don't deserve the degree or a passing grade. You're doing a disservice to dumb girl as she won't understand the value of hard work and will end up in the industry as a useless imposter. Next story. I, 21F, live with my mom, 56F, and sister, 25F. I work part-time and clean houses on my off days to pay for school, rent, and other necessities. So my savings are about $12K. My mom and sister have well-paying jobs but can never budget and have bad spending habits. I recently found out that my safe disguised as a book was missing. I put my money in cash in a safe book in a hide area. It's because my sister and mother had 2 incidents of taking money from me. I forgave them, but I'm not stupid as they will jump at the chance again. So all my money is bent at the right-hand corner. I have pics and videos of them bent, numbers of some bills safe and being bent. Furthermore, I found it broken open in the garage bin, covered, wrapped in cardboard. My cousin 24F was over the other day, and I said hi to her in the kitchen, and she was carrying the same cardboard. It was from a ginger ale box. To the backyard with my mom and sister outside already. I just came into the kitchen to wash my hands and go upstairs and shower as I came home from school and was on the bus. Helps COVID away. Helps keep COVID away. I decided to check the wallets of my moms and sisters, and there were the bills with the bent corners. I took pictures and videos as I came up with a plan to be petty. The next day, my extended family was at my aunt's sitting around and talking. I asked my cousin what she was doing with the cardboard at my mom's house with my sister and her. She said she was helping my mom spray paint some frames. My mom likes to refurbish furniture. I said okay, then I got up to get my bag with the broken book safe and grabbed my sister's and mother's wallet. I came back and dropped that broken book safe in front of my cousin. My sister was close by. I asked her if she knew what this was. She had a surprised look on her face but said nothing. I then turned to my sister and said, "You definitely know what this is." By then, everyone was watching. Next, I showed my family all the pics and videos. I even opened their wallets in front of the family, showing my money with the bended corners in it. One pic clearly showed my numbers on those bills, the ones in the wallet. My cousin's mom started going off on her daughter for stealing from the family. Most were speechless, but my mom, sister, and cousin tried everything to defend themselves. I then stated I'm being generous by not going to the police right now and giving them a month to return what they owe. Also that I'm moving out. I apologized to my aunt for the trouble, then I went home and added a lock and chain on my bedroom door. Since then, I've spoken to some family members, but some have said I went overboard, and there were less dramatic ways of doing this. So, AITA? NTA, of course. Good for you for exposing their crime. Your month to return the stolen money was generous. I probably would have just taken it back right then. I'm glad you're planning to get out too. Humiliating or not, they're likely to try it again. NTA. It may be family, but not going to the police is already what the warrant's for. You did everything right and moving out of the right choice. You did everything right and moving out is the right choice. Out of curiosity, why did you not get your own bank account to put your money into?